Hey everybody, this is Buzz Miller of Wannabe Studios. I am sitting here with my brand new 2025 Steve Brown Series guitar with super jumbo stainless frets. This is a good guitar. We're going to make it great and we're going to show you how. But before we do, I'm going to try something I never get right on the first try. I'm not cutting things because I was told I need to press myself and I need to really work on stuff. So, and as you know, I'm not a very good guitarist, but I like to play guitar. So some things I never get right, some of my classical pieces. Here we go. Take one and only take. Okay, that was terrible, but we're only letting me do one take, none other tries. So stay tuned, we're gonna see what we're gonna do with this guitar. Bam! This guitar is awesome. For $360, you cannot get a better... Cannot get a better 80s guitar than this, in my opinion. So I've tried the Donners, I've tried the Fireflies, I've tried Explorers and super-strats and all sorts of other things. I've tried Les Paul copies. This is, in my opinion, for the actual money, sound, everything, not needing to do much. This is the best guitar if you wanted to just go touring tomorrow, wanted to beat something up that wasn't your baby. If you've ever toured before, you know that your guitar is going to get stolen. It's going to get dropped. You're going to put it on the stand while you're setting other things up and it'll be dropped over on its face. So don't take your babies on a tour unless you're Metallica or Dream Theater and you've got people that watch your stuff. Because I promise you, your stuff's going to get beat up, whether it's drums, bass, guitar, amps, whatever. Cables, your cables will get stolen. If you're going on a little tour and it's going to be, 6 shows and in 12 nights or whatever, just take your junk because it's going to get beat up. Take this because you can buy a new one for $360. People ask me, why'd you give it an A-? 2 things. Number one, and this always happens. Every Floyd Rose guitar you get is going to have this. This nut is a little bit too high. There's a little bit too much space between the first fret and the string on the low E and the high E. That is very standard. Why is it standard? Guitar manufacturers set it up a little high because people don't know how to adjust truss rods, people don't know how to adjust, or some people like a lot higher action. You don't want to have to shim it up. So those of us that like a little lower action, we're going to adjust that. I'm going to show you how in just a bit. Also, the Floyd Rose sits a little too high off the body. The pickups are a little too far off the strings. And the way they're mounted, you can't really bring them up unless you want to completely undo them. Stuff more foam rubber under there and screw them down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the angle, which is kind of like this. I'm going to shave a little bit off the back of the neck, and I'm going to get it a little more flat, which will put the Floyd down lower, which will put... be able to put the pickups a little lower and have them closer to the strings where they should be. Also, just when you get used to playing Floyds that are very low, you get a certain feel. This seems like my hand is up off the front of the guitar a little more. So I'm going to make it a little more to my liking. After I do that, this is going to be the greatest guitar in the world. Also, we're going to show you what we're going to do. I bought a Mumu, never heard of them. A really cool purple clip lock strap. So I'm going to be trying that out, and if it's as good as it looks, I'm going to tell you that this is a cool strap for, $12, $14 less than your DiMarzios. I always use DiMarzios and I love them, but I'm always looking for options for cheap things for you. I am going to install a Tremel maybe in the back. That way we can dive bomb all day long. It'll always come back to zero. No tuning problems, no breaking string problems, no changing string problems, but we can also still pull up against the added spring pressure here. I already showed you how these things work in a video probably 5-6 videos ago. If you don't know, go back and look. I'm going to install that. What else am I going to install? Okay, I've got a bunch of these, so I might as well. These are noiseless springs. They work a little better. They just have a little bit of rubber over the top of them. I'm also going to do this, but if you don't want to do this, they make these little pieces of rubber. You can get them on eBay. And you just slide them right down the center of any of your springs. Slide them down the center, and they keep things from vibrating. So the springs can't vibrate with that inside of them. I'm going to do both, but I've done this on cheap springs. Works great. So if you've got where you hit that A and the body sits there and goes boom, put those in the center of your springs, stops it. I'm going to put both those in there. And then some other things I'm going to do. I bought a Music Lily brass block. Going to do a brass block to the bottom of the Floyd. Gives it a little bit more mass, a little bit more sustain. I also, when I put the nuts in there, I put red Loctite so it can never back out. A lot of the Floyds coming from China, you play them for a year and you're like, what's going on? And then you start seeing that some of the screws are backing out, which anytime it backs out, you're losing sustain, you're losing that oomph. So boom, going to put a brass block. And then the last thing is copper foil tape. I'm going to copper the pickup area, and then the back. I think the back of the plastic is already silvered, but I'm going to wrap that in copper tape, copper shielding. It does make a little bit of a difference, but when you notice the real difference is when you're playing with bad cables or you've got a bad ground loop. You're playing at a place where your amp is starting to get some weird hums and buzzes. This will kill some of that. That is what I'm going to do. Oh, I just changed my entire thing. My head rush has got a touch screen, and I just touched it with whatever I dropped. Now, here's what we do. Let me get my tools. Javier, come quick and bring your tools. We need to see how far those strings are above the first fret. Mathematically, if we fret on the first fret, we should be able to measure what's the distance between the string and the second fret. That should be mathematically about the same as open to the first fret, right? And then second fret, third fret, and so on. But they set it up where they're a little higher, so we need to find out exactly how high. Set the guitar flat. Grab a set of feeler gauges. Feeler gauges are different pieces of metal in different thicknesses, and you slide them under until you find the thickness between the fret and the string. So you just get the right one until you see the distance between the string and the first fret. These smell really good too. These obviously came from my race car trailer. I can smell the burned alcohol on them. All right, I'm making a total mess here, and I really need to be out in my shop. But here's what we've got. We measured that the high E is 16 thousandths from the string to the fret. That's a little too high. I like 009. We're going to be a little safe, and we're going to leave it 010. So if I need it to be 010, I need to take 6 thousandths of an inch. So I'm going to lay my sandpaper down. I would normally do this on a bench grinder. Not a bench grinder, what do you call it? Belt sander. Belt sander, and I'd sit it there, and then you bring it off and you do your measurements. With this amount of very small amounts, I'm not going to need that. So I'm going to get some 200 grit sandpaper. I'm going to sand it and check it, and sand it and check it. When it reads 2263, the high E is right. The low E, I tend to sand them together. So, okay, I'm doing that. And once I read 1980, which is a great year for music, for life, for fashion, for everything. Once I get the low E to read 1980, I am going to be dead on. That is going to tell me that this is now the right height, that if I bolt it back on, now I'm going to have the right height between the nut and the first fret. So that's how you do it. Simple math. It's actually simpler than it looks, and this smells terrible because this marker is, I don't know what this marker is, but it smells terrible. Stunk the whole room up. That's what I'm going to do. The next video, which won't probably be in 2 weeks because it's going to take me a little while to do all this, But I'm going to start tearing this guitar apart tonight. And once it's back and running, I'm going to do a video on it and you're going to see it. And we're going to remeasure everything and make sure I got it right. But that is how you set the height of your Floyd Rose nuts. That's why I love Floyd Rose. This guitar is also, the nut needs to be 10 thousandths closer to the first fret because all of my notes open are just a hair lower than they should be. So I'm also going to sand 10 thousandths off of the fretboard and move this 10 thousandths closer to the first fret so my intonation is a lot closer. So intonation a lot closer, being slid forward. That's why, like I said, that's why I love Floyd Rose. This thing moves. I can move it forward, back. I can shim it up. I can sand it down. I can do all that, and I don't need to be breaking it out of the guitar or getting files and filing it down. Now the files, they're not that bad of an issue, but when you have to break something out because you're too low and have to put a new one in, it gets to be a real pain in the butt. So that's why I like Floyd Rose locking nuts, even if you don't put the lock nuts on it. So this is Buzz Miller saying this is how you do it. This is how you fix the nut for your Floyd Rose tremolos. And this is how you make the Steve Brown guitars from an A- to an A+. Stay tuned. We're going to have this thing done in about 2 to 3 weeks. So check it out. Catch you later. Keep on rocking.